The year was 1939. Europe trembled. The memory of the First World War still haunted nations, its mud, its trenches, its endless death. But as the world tried to forget, one man remembered. Adolf Hitler watched, waited, and rebuilt. And when he struck, the world realized something terrifying. Germany had not just rebuilt its army, it had reinvented war itself. When Germany invaded Poland on September 1, 1939, the world saw a kind of warfare it had never imagined. It was fast, ruthless, coordinated. The Germans called it Blitzkrieg, lightning war. And it worked. In just weeks, Poland collapsed. France would follow in mere months. The world stood shocked. How could a country that had been defeated, disarmed, and humiliated after World War I rise again with such precision and power? To understand why Germany was so effective, you must look beyond the tanks and planes, into the minds of the men who built the machine. After the First World War, Germany was broken. Its army dismantled, its economy shattered, its pride crushed under the Treaty of Versailles. But in that humiliation, seeds of obsession took root. German generals, men like Heinz Guderian, Erwin Rommel, and Karl Dienitz, began secretly studying what had gone wrong in the last war. They realized that the static, trench-based warfare of 1914 to 1918 was a mistake. The next war, they believed, must be built on speed, movement, and coordination. They envisioned divisions that could strike like a fist, tanks leading the charge, aircraft bombing ahead, infantry following close behind. Every part of the army moving as one. When Hitler came to power in 1933, he gave them what they needed: freedom, funding, and fanatic purpose. Germany's first strength wasn't its weapons, it was its doctrine. While other nations still trained for another trench war, Germany trained for maneuver warfare. Their generals believed that wars were won by destroying the enemy's mind, by breaking their organization, communication, and morale before their armies even knew what hit them. And so the Germans built a system around that philosophy. Their soldiers were trained not to wait for orders, but to act on initiative. It was called off-track tactic, mission command. Commanders told their men what to achieve, but not exactly how. That freedom gave German units flexibility and speed that the rigid Allied forces lacked. When the war began, that doctrine came alive. In Poland, German tanks moved in lightning columns, supported by dive bombers screaming through the sky, the infamous Stukas, whose sirens were designed to terrify. In less than a month, Poland fell. The French and British declared war but did not act. They believed the Maginot Line, their wall of concrete and guns, would keep them safe. But the Germans had studied that, too. When they attacked France in 1940, they didn't storm the wall, they went around it. Through the Ardennes forest, terrain the Allies believed was impassable for tanks. In less than 6 weeks, France, the proud victor of the last war, surrendered. It wasn't just a victory of firepower. It was a victory of imagination. German strategy combined speed, deception, and psychological warfare in a way the world had never seen. Civilians and soldiers alike were paralyzed by the shock. Every German advance was carefully choreographed. Communications, logistics, and tactics were integrated like clockwork. The Wehrmacht didn't just move, it flowed. But tactics alone don't win wars. Germany's effectiveness came from something deeper, a national culture of precision, discipline, and engineering. From factories in Munich to shipyards in Kiel, every nut, bolt, and gear was crafted with ruthless efficiency. German machines were not just weapons, they were works of art. The Panzer tanks, with their thick armor and fast engines, were the spearhead of Blitzkrieg. The Messerschmitt Bf 109 and Focke-Wulf 190 ruled the skies. The U-boats prowled silently in the Atlantic, cutting off Britain's lifelines. But the real genius lay in how these weapons were used together. The Germans practiced what they called combined arms warfare. Every part of their military supported the other. Tanks and infantry advanced while the Luftwaffe cleared the skies above. Artillery hit enemy strongpoints seconds before tanks rolled in. It was synchronization at a level unseen before. While Allied generals still operated with 19th-century thinking, issuing orders by telephone or courier, German command used radio communication in every tank, every plane, every squad. This allowed for coordination in real time. They could adapt instantly to changing situations. That alone gave them a terrifying edge. Another key to their effectiveness was training and leadership. A German soldier was not just a man with a rifle, he was part of a machine. Every soldier knew his role, every officer knew his men. From the lowest rank to the highest general, discipline and initiative coexisted. Commanders like Rommel, the Desert Fox, didn't hide in headquarters. They led from the front, riding in half-tracks through the dust and danger of battle. Rommel's Afrika Korps in North Africa became legendary not because they had superior numbers, but because of their tactical brilliance. They could outmaneuver, outthink, and outfight enemies that often had more men and better supplies. British and American soldiers who faced them respected their professionalism, even as they fought them fiercely. German soldiers were taught to think on their feet. They understood logistics, terrain, and timing. And they believed utterly in their mission. That sense of belief, fanned by propaganda and national pride, made them fight with a determination that shocked their enemies. But effectiveness also came from organization. The German army of World War II was structured for movement. Divisions were self-contained, each had its own tanks, infantry, artillery, and engineers. This made them independent, capable of acting alone or as part of larger offensives. Their chain of command was clear, their supply lines meticulously planned. Even in chaos, they functioned with machine-like rhythm. The Allies often needed days to plan an attack. The Germans could launch one in hours. And then, there was fear. Wherever German forces went, terror followed, not just from bombs or bullets, but from reputation. The speed of their victories created a myth of invincibility. When people heard the sound of Stuka sirens or Panzer engines, many surrendered before the first shots were fired. Fear became another weapon in Germany's arsenal. Technology played its part too. German engineers created weapons decades ahead of their time: the V-2 rocket, the jet-powered Me-262, and advanced submarines. Even when the tide of war turned against them, German science kept pushing boundaries. Some of these technologies would later shape the modern world, from missiles to jet aviation. Yet, ironically, the same obsession with engineering perfection sometimes slowed them down. Late-war tanks like the Tiger and Panther were masterpieces, but overly complex. They were powerful but difficult to maintain in rough battlefield conditions. Still, in one-on-one combat, they were unmatched. What truly made the Germans so effective was their unity of purpose, at least in the beginning. Hitler's vision of a new German empire gave the nation a single direction, however twisted. Factories worked day and night. Civilians sacrificed. The propaganda machine fueled belief that Germany was invincible. And for a time, it seemed true. By 1941, Hitler's empire stretched from the Atlantic to the gates of Moscow. No other army had conquered so much so fast. But with success came arrogance. The same traits that made Germany effective, discipline, belief, and obedience, also blinded it. Commanders who questioned Hitler's grand strategy were ignored or dismissed. The invasion of the Soviet Union opened a front too vast to control. German troops, trained for rapid victories, found themselves bogged down in endless, brutal warfare. The precision machine began to wear out. Still, even in defeat, their effectiveness was frightening. At Stalingrad, surrounded and starving, the German Sixth Army held out for months. In Normandy, in Italy, and on the Eastern Front, even as the Allies outnumbered them 10-1, German units fought with skill that astonished their enemies. American generals studying their tactics admitted grudging admiration. One US officer said, "They fought like professionals to the end. No army has ever been more organized in retreat." Why were they so effective? Because every part of their system, their training, doctrine, organization, and mindset, worked together with deadly harmony. Germany didn't invent war, but they redefined it. They made it faster, smarter, and more psychological. Their philosophy of mission command, giving soldiers freedom within discipline, is still studied and used by militaries around the world today. Even in defeat, their methods lived on. After the war, Allied commanders interviewed hundreds of German officers. They found that the key to their success wasn't fanaticism or technology alone, it was education. German officers were trained to think, to adapt, to make decisions when communication broke down. Their army was built on intellect, not just obedience. That balance between freedom and discipline made them resilient. It's why, even as their cities burned and supplies vanished, German forces continued to fight effectively until the very end in 1945. But behind that effectiveness lay a dark truth. Efficiency without morality is dangerous. The same discipline that made the German army powerful also made it capable of atrocities. The same unity that brought victory in battle brought horror in the concentration camps. The machine that worked so perfectly on the battlefield was fueled by ideology, an ideology that turned human beings into numbers. In the end, that moral blindness doomed them. No matter how effective their military, no matter how advanced their weapons, Germany could not sustain a war against the world, or against its own conscience. The war they waged consumed millions, including their own. When Berlin fell in May 1945, the sound of gunfire was replaced by silence. The war machine that had once terrified the world lay in ruins. But the lessons it taught, about leadership, organization, and innovation, were studied by every nation that survived. In the post-war years, many wondered how Germany had fought so effectively for so long. The answer wasn't just in technology or tactics, it was in mindset. They believed war was not chaos, but an art. Every move had purpose. Every soldier had meaning. They fought with focus born from desperation and pride. That focus, that terrifying efficiency, became their greatest strength and their greatest curse. From the ruins of their empire came lessons that shaped the future. The NATO armies of today, even the US military, adopted many of the principles born in the Wehrmacht: decentralized command, speed of maneuver, combined arms tactics. The world learned that wars are not won by sheer numbers, but by how fast you can think, move, and adapt. The German army of World War II remains one of history's most studied fighting forces. For 6 years, it held nearly the entire world at bay. Its victories rewrote military textbooks. Its failures reshaped global ethics. The world feared it, and then learned from it. Because behind the swastikas and propaganda, behind the ideology and insanity, there was something every soldier could understand: the relentless drive to be the best, to perfect the art of war. That drive made them formidable. That same drive, unchecked, destroyed them. As the war ended, Allied generals walked through the ruins of German command posts. They found maps, blueprints, and journals filled with notes on tactics, fuel calculations, and movement patterns. Even in their final days, the Germans were planning, still analyzing, still trying to find efficiency amid destruction. They had turned warfare into a science. But science without humanity always leads to ruin. So when we ask why the Germans were so effective in World War II, the answer is both inspiring and tragic. They were effective because they believed in preparation, coordination, and innovation. They trained their men to think, not just obey. They built machines that embodied precision. They fought with unity and purpose. But they also allowed ambition to become arrogance, and discipline to become cruelty. Their efficiency was unmatched, but so was their moral failure. Their rise and fall remind us that power without principle is the most dangerous weapon of all. The echo of German efficiency still shapes the modern battlefield. Every military today studies their tactics, not to copy their cause, but to understand their craft. In the thunder of their tanks, in the precision of their marches, the world saw both the heights of human organization and the depths of human destruction. And in that contradiction lies the true story of German effectiveness in World War II, the story of a nation that mastered war, but lost its soul in the process.